Rain streaked the window of the cafe where she sat, her fingers curled around a mug gone cold hours ago. Outside, the city pulsed with Friday night energy horns. Laughter, neon lights flickering off wet pavement. But inside, she floated somewhere between memory and reality. Her name was Emily, 24, and for 6 months she'd been telling herself that what she and Adam had now was something steady, something new. But it wasn't just a relationship. It was a ghost. A second act of a story that had begun years ago when they were still practically kids. Back then, the world had felt wider and yet somehow simpler. They'd met at a summer job, she behind the counter and he running deliveries to teenagers with more hormones than sense. Adam had been tall and a little awkward, the kind of boy who tried to mask shyness with jokes, while Emily had been confident but secretly longing for someone to look at her like she was extraordinary. When Adam did, she'd been hooked. Their first kiss had tasted like root beer and sunblock. Their first fight had been about nothing and everything. They broke up after a year, not in a blaze of betrayal, but in a slow fizzle of late-night texts and unreturned calls, and yet the cord between them had never snapped. Through college and new partners, through job changes and cities, they stayed in contact. Sometimes a stray meme, sometimes a long call after a few drinks. Always that sense of almost, but not quite, like a song they both knew by heart, but never finished singing. Emily dated others, fell in and out of Adam dated too, sent her photos of dogs he might adopt, of places he traveled. Sometimes she caught herself wondering if he was thinking of her as much as she thought of him then. Half a year ago, they'd run into each other at a mutual friend's birthday party. He'd been different, broader shoulders, a quieter voice, a steadier gaze. She'd been different too, more sure of herself, but also lonelier. The spark that flared between them that night wasn't nostalgia. It was heat. They talked until the party dissolved into background noise, walked together to the subway, and then just kept walking. By dawn, they were tangled in each other's arms, laughing at how inevitable it all felt. This time, they told themselves they were adults. They would do it right. They set rules. Honesty, no games, no ghosts. They introduced each other to friends, to family. He'd come over with takeout after her late shifts. She'd leave notes in his kitchen for him to find. She could picture a future weekend trips, maybe even moving in together. After years of circling, it felt like finally landing, and yet, even in the glow of rekindled love, there were shadows. Emily noticed Adam sometimes staring off, lost in thought, when they talked about the future. She chalked it up to nerves. She noticed how he avoided certain topics about his past, about some friendships he never elaborated on. But didn't everyone have their private corners? She wasn't naive. Relationships took time to deepen. Trust wasn't built overnight. She remembered one evening clearly. They were sitting on her couch, a movie forgotten on the screen, when he reached for her hand and said, "I'm so glad we found our way back." The warmth in his eyes made her believe every word. She squeezed his fingers and replied, "Me too. No more secrets this time." He nodded. They kissed, and she thought, this time it's real. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. They fell into a rhythm: morning texts, weekend markets, late-night confessions whispered in the dark. Emily began to let herself relax. She told her friends that Adam was different now, that they were different. She started keeping a toothbrush at his place, leaving her favorite mug in his kitchen. These were small things, but they felt monumental, like laying stones on the path to something permanent. But sometimes, late at night, she'd catch a flicker of doubt. Not about his affection, he was tender, attentive, but about something unnamed, a tension under the surface. She told herself it was just the residue of their past, that she needed to trust him. After all, hadn't he chosen her again? Hadn't he cut through years of almost to say yes this time? The night before, everything changed. They'd gone to a little bar with friends. Adam had been in high spirits, laughing more than usual, his hand never straying far from hers. She'd watched him across the table, thinking how handsome he looked under the dim lights, thinking how lucky she was. He'd kissed her forehead on the walk home, murmuring something about the future. She'd fallen asleep, smiling. If she had known what was coming, she would have clung to that moment. She would have memorized it, the way his thumb brushed her knuckles, the way he smelled faintly of cedar and beer, the way her heart had felt full. Because the next day, the first crack appeared. It came as a message from a number she didn't recognize, a stranger's name flashing on her screen. She almost ignored it, but curiosity made her swipe. The words were casual, almost apologetic. "Hey, I don't know if you know me, but I think you should. I hooked up with your boyfriend last month." The air seemed to vanish from the room. She read it again, then again, as if repetition would make it make sense. Her first thought wasn't anger, but disbelief. This had to be a prank, a mistake. Adam wasn't like that. He'd promised. He'd chosen her. She typed back a shaky reply. "What are you talking about?" The stranger responded quickly, filling in details she wished she could unsee where, when, how drunk they'd been. He even sent a photo of himself with Adam from that night, smiling drunkenly at the camera. The timestamp matched. Her stomach dropped. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, heart pounding. The city noise outside felt distant, muted. She tried to breathe. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Adam had told him they weren't together yet. Maybe it wasn't even true. But deep down, she knew. She remembered the nights Adam had been vague about his plans, the mornings he'd seemed hungover and evasive. The puzzle pieces she'd ignored clicked into place. Hours passed before Adam came over. When he walked through her door, she looked at him and saw a stranger wearing his face. He smiled, oblivious, until he noticed her expression. "What's wrong?" he asked. She held up her phone. His smile faded. "Who is this?" she asked, voice trembling. Adam's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes darted away. That was answer enough, but she didn't yell. Not yet. She was too stunned. Did you sleep with him?" she asked. He sank onto the couch, hands in his hair. "Emily, yes or no?" Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Finally, he whispered, "Yes." Something inside her cracked. Not just because he'd cheated, but because he hadn't told her. Because someone else had. Because all their vows of honesty had been words on air. And yet, in that moment, part of her still wanted to understand. Wanted to know why. She sat down across from him, staring. "Why didn't you tell me?" Adam looked at her like a man staring at a cliff edge. "I was scared. I didn't know how. I thought it was a mistake. I thought," he broke off, swallowed hard. "I didn't want to lose you." The rain outside had turned into a storm, wind rattling the window. Inside, Emily felt her world tilting. The boy she'd trusted twice over, the man she'd begun to picture a life with, was suddenly someone she didn't recognize. She whispered, "You're not as straight as you said, are you?" He hesitated, then shook his head slowly. "No, I'm not." The words hung between them, electric. She thought back to every moment that had felt off, every flicker of distance. She wasn't angry at his sexuality. She wasn't even sure what label fit. She was angry at the lie, at being left in the dark. Adam's voice was low. It happened once. I was drunk. I had feelings for him, but they're gone now. I swear to you. I want you. Just you. Emily stared at him, her mind spinning. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to collapse into his arms, to run away. Instead, she said, "Maybe you need to figure yourself out. Maybe we need a break." He reached for her hand, desperate. "No, please. I don't want to break. I don't want an open relationship. I just want you." She pulled her hand back. "You lied to me, I know. And I'm sorry. I've cut him off. I'll do whatever it takes." The storm outside howled. Inside, two people sat across from each other, everything they'd built trembling on the edge. Emily didn't know then how the story would end. She only knew she was standing at the threshold of something vast and painful. Love, betrayal, identity colliding in a single night. And as she stared at Adam, she wondered if love was enough to rebuild trust once it had been broken, or if some cracks never healed. The storm outside finally broke into a soft drizzle, but inside Emily's apartment, the air remained electric. She stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching beads of water snake down the glass. Behind her, Adam sat slumped on the couch, the weight of confession dragging his shoulders low. Silence expanded between them, a living thing, filling every corner of the room. In that silence, Emily's thoughts ran wild. Images flickered like film reels. Zadam's smile at the bar last week, the text from the stranger, the look on Adam's face when he said yes. She had always imagined betrayal would feel like fire, like fury. But this felt like drowning. She turned from the window, her voice a quiet tremor. "I don't know what to say." Adam rubbed his palms against his jeans. "Say anything. Yell at me. Tell me I'm a monster. Just don't shut me out." She took a deep breath. "I'm not angry because you're bi, or whatever you are. I'm angry because you didn't tell me. Because you let someone else tell me." "I know," he whispered. "I hate myself for it." Emily sat down across from him, fingers gripping the edge of the coffee table. "I offered you honesty. From the beginning, that's what I wanted. No games, no ghosts. And you," her voice cracked. "You said you wanted that too." "I did." "I do. Then why lie?" Adam looked up at her, eyes red. "Because I didn't know what it meant. I'd never been with a guy before. It just happened. And I thought if I told you, you'd leave. You're the only thing in my life that feels real." His words should have softened her. Once they would have. But now they only deepened the ache. "Do you even know what you want?" she asked. "I want you," he said, immediate and fierce. "I don't want anyone else. Not him, not anyone. Just you." Emily stared at him, trying to see truth in his face. She wanted to believe him, God. She wanted to, but trust once shattered is like glass. It can be glued, but the cracks remain. She stood, pacing. "Maybe you need time to figure this out." "Maybe we both do." Adam rose too, closing the space between them. "No, please. I'll go to therapy. I'll answer every question. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me." His desperation hung in the air. She felt it tug at her, the part of her that still loved him. that still saw the boy from the summer job and the man who had kissed her forehead under the bar's neon glow. But another part of Hertha, part holding the broken shards of trust, pulled back. "I'm not making any decisions tonight," she said finally. "I need time." Adam nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. "Take all the time you need." "I'll wait." He left soon after, the door clicking shut behind him. Emily sank onto the couch, staring at the imprint he'd left on the cushion. Outside, the drizzle thickened again, a steady hiss against the city's heartbeat. The following days blurred into a haze of routine and inner turmoil. Emily went to work, smiled at co-workers, answered emails, but inside she felt hollow. Nights were worse. Her phone buzzed with messages from Adam, apologies, reassurances, updates on his therapy search, but she couldn't bring herself to reply to most. Friends noticed her distraction. Over lunch, her best friend Lena leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You're quiet? What's going on?" Emily hesitated, then spilled everything: the text, the confession, the confusion. Lena listened without interrupting, only reaching across the table to squeeze her hand when Emily's voice broke. When Emily finished, Lena exhaled. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do," Emily admitted. "I still love him, but I don't know if I can trust him. And I don't know if he even knows who he is." Lena tilted her head. "Do you think he's still lying?" "I don't think so. He's been answering all my questions." He cut the guy off. "He's trying, but—" Emily's throat tightened. "He lied once. How do I know he won't lie again?" Lena was quiet for a moment. "You don't. That's the risk. But you also have to ask yourself, what do you need? Not what he needs. You." Emily looked down at her hands. "I want the relationship we had before I found out. I want to go back." "You can't," Lena said gently. "Even if you stay, it'll be a new relationship now. One where you both have to rebuild." Emily nodded, tears blurring her vision. That night, Adam showed up at her door, uninvited but not unwelcome. He held a small box in his hands. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. "I'm not here to push," he said, setting the box on the table. I've been thinking, and I wanted you to have this." Inside the box was a stack of handwritten letters. Some were dated from the past month, others from before they'd gotten back together. Emily picked one up, reading his neat handwriting. In it, he poured out his confusion, his guilt, his fear of losing her. "I wrote them, but never gave them to you," Adam said quietly. "I thought maybe if you saw them, you'd understand I wasn't playing games. I was scared, yes, but I've been honest with myself since you confronted me. I want to be honest with you too." Emily set the letter down, her chest tight. "Why didn't you just tell me?" "I was a coward," he admitted. "But I'm done hiding." For a long time, they sat in silence, the letters between them like fragile bridges. Finally, Emily spoke. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "Not yet. I'll wait," Adam said. "I'll prove it." She met his eyes. "This isn't about proving. It's about me deciding if I can live with this." I know weeks passed. They didn't label what they were. Sometimes they met for coffee, sometimes for long walks by the river. Adam kept going to therapy. He told her about it openly, about exploring his sexuality and his fear of losing her. Emily kept journaling, trying to untangle her own feelings. One evening, sitting on a park bench as the sun set, Adam said softly. I think I'm bisexual. Emily didn't flinch. Okay, I'm still learning what that means. But it doesn't change how I feel about you. She stared at the water, shimmering gold in the fading light. I'm glad you're figuring it out. I just don't know if I can be here while you do. Adam was quiet. I understand. She turned to him. Do you? Yes, but I also know I love you. Emily's heart ached. Love isn't always enough. Inside her apartment that night, Emily spread out the letters on her bed. Each one was a fragment of Adam she hadn't known before. His fears, his hopes, his shame. She realized, reading them, that he hadn't been malicious. He'd been lost. And yet, his being lost had hurt her all the same. She lay back, staring at the ceiling. She could imagine two futures. One where she forgave him and they rebuilt, slowly, painfully. Another where she walked away, spared herself more heartbreak, but also lost the boy she'd loved for years. Both futures felt heavy. She closed her eyes. She didn't have to decide tonight. But soon she would. Outside, the city hummed on, oblivious. Inside, Emily stood at the center of her own private storm, holding the broken pieces of a love she still couldn't let go of. The first hints of autumn arrived with a crispness in the morning air, a quiet reminder that time was moving even as Emily felt suspended between past and future. Weeks had passed since Adam's confession, and she still hadn't made a decision. Each day she awoke with the same ache in her chest, the same question humming at the back of her mind. Stay or go? She tried to live, normally, work, friends, small pleasures, but everything felt muted. Even her favorite coffee shop tasted like cardboard. When Adam texted, she replied politely but without warmth. When he asked to meet, sometimes she said yes, sometimes no. Each interaction felt like testing a fragile bridge to see if it would hold. Adam, for his part, had changed. Not just the therapy, though he mentioned it often, but something deeper. He was quieter, more deliberate. Gone was the easy confidence he'd worn at the bar the night before she found out. In its place was a steady, almost vulnerable sincerity. One Saturday morning, he knocked on her door carrying 2 cups of coffee. I thought you might want to go for a walk, he said. She hesitated, then grabbed her jacket. They walked to the park, leaves crunching underfoot, a low sun casting long shadows. For a while, they said nothing. Then Adam cleared his throat. I wanted to tell you something, he said. Therapy's been hard, but good. I've been learning a lot about myself. Emily glanced at him. Like what? That I was ashamed of parts of me. That I thought if I hid them, I could be enough for you. But hiding made me lie. And lying hurt you. I'm sorry, Emily. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I'm not hiding anymore. His voice cracked a little. If you can't be with me, I'll accept it. I'll be heartbroken, but I'll accept it. You deserve honesty, even if it means losing me. Emily's breath caught. She'd been bracing for him to push, to plead. Instead, he offered release. And somehow, that honesty hurt and healed at the same time. They sat on a bench, watching a dog chase a ball across the grass. Do you still love me? She asked quietly. Yes, he said simply. She swallowed. I still love you too. But I don't know if I can trust you. I know, he said. Trust takes time. She looked at him. Are you willing to wait? I'm willing to wait as long as it takes. But I also don't want you to stay out of guilt. If you need to leave, leave. Just be happy." The words hung between them like a fragile offering. Emily felt something shift inside her. Not a decision, but a clarity. This was no longer about punishing Adam or saving him. It was about choosing herself. That night, she sat at her kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper. She began to write, not a letter to Adam, but to herself. She wrote about the girl who had fallen in love at a summer job, about the woman who had tried to build something real from the ashes of almost. She wrote about the betrayal, the heartbreak, the confusing compassion she still felt for him. And then she wrote about what she wanted: honesty, stability, a partner who knew himself. She wrote about how much she'd grown, how much she still deserved. By the time she put the pen down, tears had soaked the page, but her hands were steady. She picked up her phone. "Can we talk tomorrow?" She texted Adam. "Anytime." He replied almost immediately. They met at the river the next afternoon. The water shimmered under a pale sun, the air cool and crisp. Emily stood facing him, heart pounding. "I've been thinking a lot," she said. "And I realized something. I can forgive you someday, maybe. But right now, I can't be in this relationship." Adam's face tightened, but he didn't look away. "Okay, I need to be on my own," she continued. "You need to keep figuring yourself out. I hope you do. I hope you find peace with who you are. But I can't be your anchor while you do it. It's not fair to either of us." He nodded slowly. "I understand." Tears blurred her vision. "I love you. But love isn't enough right now." Adam's own eyes glistened. "I love you too. And I'm sorry. For everything." For a moment they stood there, two people who had loved each other twice and broken twice, holding the weight of goodbye. Then Adam stepped forward, pulling her into a hug. She let herself sink into it, memorizing the feel of his arms, the scent of his jacket. Knowing it was the last time when they pulled apart, she smiled faintly through tears. "Take care of yourself. You too," he said. She turned and walked away. The sound of the river in her ears, the city unfolding before her. Each step felt like tearing and healing at once. In the weeks that followed, Emily grieved. Some days she missed him so much she could hardly breathe. Other days she felt light, free, as if she'd stepped out of a fog. She threw herself into work, into friendships, into rediscovering what she loved: books, long runs, quiet mornings. She journaled, she healed. Adam kept his promise not to chase her. Occasionally he sent a brief text, "Thinking of you, hope you're well," but he didn't push. She heard from mutual friends that he was still in therapy, still learning. She was glad. She hoped he found himself. One evening, months later, Emily sat again at the cafe where this had all begun. The rain streaked the window just like before, but she felt different, stronger. She thought about Adam, about the letters, about their long history. She didn't regret loving him. She didn't regret leaving either. Both had taught her something about who she was, about what she needed. She took out her notebook and wrote a single line. "I chose me outside." The rain eased. A small patch of sky cleared, light spilling through. Emily closed her notebook, smiled softly to herself, and stood to leave, for the first time in months. She felt ready not to go back, but to move forward, somewhere across the city. Adam sat at his own kitchen table, writing in a journal his therapist had given him. He wrote about honesty, about shame, about the girl he'd lost because he hadn't known himself soon enough. But he also wrote about hope, about becoming the man he wanted to be, not for anyone else, but for himself. He didn't know if their paths would cross again, but he hoped that wherever Emily was, she was smiling. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Emily walked home through the damp streets, her coat wrapped tight, the air cool and clean. For the first time, the ache in her chest felt less like a wound and more like a scar, a reminder, not a weight. She knew she'd love again. She knew she'd trust again. But first, she'd live for herself. She paused at a crosswalk, watching the light change from red to green. Then she stepped forward into her own story.